What is your personal definition of living a good life? And that's one of those questions that I wrestled with for many years because something that I like to think about is like, hey, I have so many years of my life, I have so many decades, but how do I actually optimize it? How do I actually live a life that is good? And that's such a difficult question. And the way I thought about it over the years is really a balance of three things. And it's what I call life optimization. The balance of three things: your money, your health, and your time. And it's this idea of being able to optimize it at different stages in your life. And you're going to have many stages. When you're in your 20s and 30s, when you have a lot of time and energy because you're just youthful, but you don't have a lot of money, you're still trying to figure your way into the world, stumble your way, and you're still going to university, you're getting to your first job, and you might be job switching and you just don't really know. And then you're in your 40s and 50s, which is really like in your middle age, being an actual full-grown adult, right? You probably have a little bit of more money now, but you're probably lacking in time because you just have a lot of responsibilities. You have a kid, maybe you have a spouse, and you maybe have a mortgage, and you maybe have a house, and all these things that you have to take care of. You're a person that has responsibilities, and at this time maybe your health is a little bit in decline because you're just not taking care of yourself. You're not going to the gym as often, you're not going and seeing your friends as often, so maybe your mental health is suffering as well. And there's a study that says, like, in your middle ages, your happiness level actually dips to its lowest points, and then we rise back up into your 60s and 70s and beyond, when you're in your golden years and your retirement age, and you're still trying to, now you actually have a lot of time on your hands, right? You probably have so much time on your hands where you don't know what to do with it, and you are actually in a way lacking in health, right? Of the three things, right? Money, time, and health, right? You have a lot of time and you have a lot of money when you're in your 60s to 70s because you've been probably accumulating for so many decades in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And now you're at the point where you're like, hey, I can put my foot off the gas pedal and actually enjoy life. In your 60s to 70s, you have a lot of time, and maybe you can say you don't have a lot of time because you're getting a lot older. So you need to try to find balance between all these three things throughout your different life stages and these buckets of life. And something that I kind of wrestle with is, I see, because I travel quite often, and I see older people and they're trying to get off the tour buses and they need someone to help them, and they're on crutches and they can barely walk and they're very slow and stuff like that. And a lot of times they can't even climb up the mountain, and they can't even do any of these trail paths because their body physically doesn't allow them to. And it's not my thinking of like, hey, there's some things that are good for you to do when you're younger versus when you're older. Of course, you could do them in your 60s, 70s, 80s. There's definitely people that are doing that into their old age to travel and to gallivant around the world, maybe even go skydiving. But at the same time, the experience and the contentment and the fulfillment that you could do of traveling and certain things, like maybe different sports, maybe different activities, extracurricular activities, and even passions that you might have, are better to be tried and done in your 20s and 30s and 40s versus when you're in 60s, 70s, and 80s. And that's where, like, the mindset that I kind of have throughout my life is like, what can I be doing right now that is going to benefit me a lot more than if I try to do it in my older age? And it sort of comes into three important life decisions that I think a lot of people don't really spend a lot of time thinking about, and myself included, I would say, because when I was younger, I didn't think about these three things, which is location, where do I actually want to live, and my career, what do I actually want to focus my time and energy into, like a vocation or a career, or how to actually make a living. And the third thing, which is who I'm actually going to partner up with, who do I actually want to spend a lot of time with in terms of a romantic partner. And these three things are super important because they have the power to really change the trajectory of your life, right? If we're talking about location, the people that you're going to surround yourself with the most are going to really influence the person that you are, right? A lot of people want to stay where they are and live a life that is most comfortable to them. And that might just be maybe in a small town where they feel most comfortable, and that's totally fine. But a lot of people want to move to big cities like New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, because they're chasing a dream, right? And I'm not saying those cities are better than smaller cities and towns, but it's like, are you going to the location or where you actually want to be in order to meet people and to meet the opportunities that are going to come forth in order to reach whatever life goals you might have, right? And that sort of goes into life optimization. Like, location in your environment has a lot to do with it, right? If I'm in a very sunny city like San Diego and everyone's always out all the time, people like to go for walks, the sun is great, there's beaches all around you, you're going to want to be out and about and you're not going to be stuck in your home. But if you're living somewhere where is perpetually cold and there's winter all the time, you might get a little bit depressed, you might get a little bit sad, and you might have more reason, more of a barrier for you to actually go and do things, whether that's to meet new people, whether that is to network, whether that is to even go and have fun with friends, right? If I'm gonna go travel 1 hour in New York City from the outer boroughs into Manhattan to see my friends, I might just say, hey, like, that's an hour, like, I really don't feel like doing that, and it's super cold outside, like, why would I even attempt? So in a way, your environment does play a very vital factor in your overall contentment, happiness, and the way you actually go about the world. Something else that is very important is your career, right? What do you actually want to spend most of your time in, right? And this sort of falls into life optimization, where in your 20s and 30s, you have a lot of time and energy, right? What are you focusing on? Are you just focusing on parties, drugs, alcohol, chasing the opposite sex, chasing social media clout? Or are you actually focusing on something that you hope to reap the rewards in your 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond, right? It's all about this idea of compounding, where that not only applies to personal finance, but it also applies to your career and your relationships and everything else, where the earlier you try to figure out these things, these major life decisions and things that you want to do throughout your life, then the more you can actually benefit from. And I'm not saying you have to stay single-minded and single-tracked, but at the same time, you have to realize that time is on your hands when you're in your 20s and 30s. And the third and final piece of this is really your person that you're going to spend a lot of time with, right? And I'm not saying you have to spend the rest of your life with, or everyone has a different idea of the relationships and love and all these things and partnership. But at the end of the day, I think that you should personally stay single in your 20s, because you should actually allow yourself to grow in terms of your resources, your maturity, your emotional intelligence, and your experience throughout the world, and allow yourself to really blossom into who you're meant to be. Because a lot of times people get together in their early 20s and even in their teens, and they grow so much through the 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years in their 20s and even the 30s, and they realize one day, like, hey, we've grown really apart and we're like a totally different person. And that's totally normal, because you grow so much in your 20s. You grow, and I remember being someone in my early 20s when I was still young, dumb, and still in university, and then me going to the military and going through multiple different corporate jobs, and now I'm in my 30s and I'm realizing, like, hey, I'm a totally different Warren than I was 5 years ago, than when I was 10 years ago. And that sort of goes to show you that, hey, it's sort of important, and you spend a little bit more time to really pinpoint the things that you value in a partner, so that you are making a decision that is going to affect a huge portion of your life and your happiness overall. So how do I live a good life? Okay, so personally, for me, my personal definition has changed, and yours will too change over the years because you grow so much. However, for me personally, it's about living a life where I am proud of every single day. And there's gonna be some good days and there's gonna be some bad days, but it's about realizing how I actually want to live as a person, to be proud of the things that I'm doing, and I'm building and creating things and adding value to the world. And that seems very generic, and because it is, because there's so many ways to go about it, right? There's no one right path. It's not about, oh, I must maximize my 20s and make a ton of money, and then I could be rich and I could go travel, gallivant around the world and do all these things, right? That might be the personal definition of a good life for someone else, but as you change throughout your life and as you get older, some of the things that in the 20s that you really wanted, like maybe like a lot of money, a lot of fame, a lot of status, a really good job at being a manager and climbing the corporate ladder, in your 50s, your priorities might totally shift. It might be, I really want to focus on my kids. I really want to build a strong foundation and a marriage with my partner, with my significant others. Or it might be, I want to actually give back, right? I want to give back. This is the time and age for me to give back to the world, right? I've been consuming so much, and now that I feel like I'm in my 40s and 50s and I need to do something other than take from the world, right? To give back into the world. So it's one of those things where your personal definition of how to live a good life is going to fluctuate as you age. But there's some fundamental core, I would say, principles for myself that I use to guide myself is I want to remember that money does not equate to happiness. It is a tool that is going to help me grow as a person, that is going to allow me to go about the world more easily. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be nourishing to the soul to give me the energy and the passion to actually go out there and help people, to create videos and to create and to write and to actually do creative things in order to give back into the world so that I could share my thoughts, feelings, and actually understand myself and my place within the world, understand my identity, who I am as a person, right? Whatever they call like soul searching and all those things. And it's one of those things where sometimes when you're younger, you don't have the luxury of time or energy or even money to be able to pursue these things. But as you fluctuate into your life and you get into your 40s and 50s, maybe you do have a little bit more of a wiggle room there, right? So it's something to be cognizant of. But for me personally, it's about waking up every single day, doing something that I enjoy, continue to be challenged, continue to be growing as a person, and really to gain confidence as a person, to try new things and to experience life. I mean, I'm right now in Bogota, Colombia, and I'm looking at the mountains and it's just incredibly beautiful. And I'm like, holy cow, like life is just beautiful. There's so much out there to explore. And that's why I constantly travel, because I see myself gallivanting around the world and understanding that, hey, there's more to life than just work and being stuck in a cubicle, stuck in a corporate office. And I understand at the same time that like I'm in a very lucky, privileged position to be able to do that, because a lot of people are stuck in these lives, in these commitments and these obligations. But that's the whole point of life optimization, is to really optimize your life so that you can live and open yourself up to the world in a lifestyle that you find ideal and you find as like a dream life. And that's what it's all about.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video and you're getting some value out of it, please, if you can just click the like button and actually subscribe, that would be really, really helpful, because it helps the YouTube algorithm actually show my content to more people. As always, thank you for watching.
And the final piece of this is really to the balance of money, time, and energy. And we're gonna start with money, right? Money is a very important tool, but I would say it is only a tool because without your health, without time on your hands, you'd be working as an investment banker for 80 hours a week, and you have literally zero time. You can't even take care of your health. You're not only your physical health, but your mental health. You can't even spend time with your friends. You have no community. You have no life, so to speak. And what kind of life is that? And you're making maybe like $400,000, $500,000 a year, but you can't even really enjoy life, right? And that's why the new luxury of life is not money, but time freedom. And it's something to really think about and to really analyze in your own life. How am I optimizing my own life in order for me to have the time to do the things that I want? And it could be simply as just by doing nothing. I want to be able to sit on a Saturday and Sunday and literally do nothing and just sit there and not worry about work, not worry about bills, not worry about anything really, and just be like, hey, this is my life. And that's time freedom, right? The ability to do anything you want, whenever you want, wherever you want, with whoever you want. That is a new luxury that money can buy, but money by itself is not going to give you. But money does afford you to have the FU money, right? To be able to say, F you, I don't like the way you're speaking to me. I don't like this toxic environment at work. And I'm going to leave, because money is not the thing that is going to tie me and keep me chained to the corporate desk, so to speak, right? And that's what you should be aiming for. And that's what I aim for throughout my 20s and then into my 30s, is financial freedom, right? To be able to say like, hey, I don't actually need to work right now. I can choose to work right now or not, because I'm not digging this toxic environment. I'm going to find someone else. I'm going to find a team that I actually enjoy working for and working with. In your 20s and 30s, it's the time to actually maximize your income, maximize your skill set. Not only the hard skills like programming, maybe in the sciences like mathematics, and engineering, but also soft skills, right? Your ability to lead, the ability to communicate effectively, the ability to actually talk to people like humans, right? You would think that's actually shouldn't be that hard, but yeah, it is quite hard. And I was a socially awkward person, and I probably still am into my 30s, but it's something that I've proactively worked on, right? And it's something that is better done when you're young and you're still trying to figure yourself out and who you are and your personality and your identity in the world when you're younger. Because as you get older, when you're in your 50s and 60s, you're gonna be stuck in your ways in a way, right? And a lot of people say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I wanna say I believe that and I don't believe that. And sometimes I think it's an excuse for a lot of people to say and to cop out and like, I don't want to learn new things. But right now is a time for you to bloom, to blossom. Since you have a lot of time on your hands in your 20s, and you have the luxury of time because you have your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you want things that compound. And in terms of money and wealth, that means investing, right? And there's so much I get into investing, but all you really need to know about investing is live below your means, right? Even if you're gonna make a lot of money, try to live below your means, take that money and invest it in the S&P 500 in a safe way, right? And this is not professional financial advice. This is what I've done, right? In my 20s, you try to invest all the money that I had that I was making, which was really nothing because I was working in the military. I was in the Marine Corps and we didn't get a lot of money, but the money that I had, I saved and I invested into S&P 500, and now it's 8-9 years down the road and I'm seeing the compound growth as it's going up in the stock market. And right, it's going to fluctuate, but it's something to think about. I want to take care of the future Warren, right? The future guy in my 60s, 70s, what is future Warren going to need? He's going to need a little bit of more money. He's going to need more money for the doctors, maybe for insurance, because my knees aren't as good as they used to be, right? From all the hiking and all the rucking. That's something I think about. And it's the idea of like short and long-term thinking, right? Let's not focus on the short-term thinking all the time, right? Trying to chase social media clout. I want to get rich quick. I want to invest all my money on Dogecoin or cryptocurrency so that I could be a crypto billionaire into my 30s and 40s, right? Let's not try to think short-term. Let's try to think long-term. We're talking about 10 years. We're talking about 20 years, 30 years down the road, because if you're in your 20s and 30s, which most of you guys are, you have 40, 50 years ahead of you, right? Let's think about making those 20% decisions, those important decisions that are going to give you 80% of the results, right? Let's do that. And so we can set ourselves up and set up a lifestyle and optimize our life so that we can live a good life. And in relation to your health throughout your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and beyond, you already kind of know that your health sort of goes down, right? And there's really only a couple ways that you can keep it from going down exponentially or going down drastically with a high velocity is really to exercise, right? And a lot of people tell you that health is wealth, and usually it's the people that are older. My mom is in her 70s and now she sort of understands like, hey, health is wealth. She's like, hey, I'm retired now. I have a lot of time, but my health is deteriorating and I see it. And sometimes it really sucks because I see it in her eyes where she lost some of the luster for life is I can't really go travel. And if I go travel, I have some dietary restrictions or my teeth hurts, or I'm worried that I'm gonna get sick on the flight there, or I can't ride different buses because I have motion sickness, or my knees hurt so I can't really climb this specific mountain. And it's really stark of a reminder for me when I'm traveling and I see older people that are in their retirement age where they're still traveling, which is really great, and they're giving them kudos for it. But at the same time, they could barely climb stairs, they're on a crutch, and they're in a wheelchair, and they need someone to actually bring them along. And you can make so much money in the world and you could have everything, you could be a billionaire, but if you don't have your health, you're gonna quickly realize that life is not what it's all cracked up to be if you're sick. And that's something that I'm really trying to keep in the back of my head every single day. And I try to exercise. I try to keep an eye on what I eat, what I put into my body, my nutrition, and actually trying to prepare food that I can eat that is healthy and that's going to give me that energy throughout the day so that I don't have to rely on caffeinated drinks all the time, that I don't have to rely on things that are going to keep me out, energy drinks. And to really be able to live a life according to my own terms because I have the health to do so. And outside of our physical health, mental health is such a crucial part because people say you could have a lot of money, but if you're depressed, if you have no friends, if you have no community, if you have no sense of belonging, and you don't really know who you are, and you neglected all that, which is a really common mistake, and I did in my 20s when I was so focused on my career, trying to become a good officer, trying to be a good software engineer, where I neglected my friends, where I didn't go out, where I didn't try and explore and live life, right? To live life with zest, to actually go out and maybe go dancing, maybe go out to party once in a while, to attend weddings because I said I had to work, right? And it's one of those excuses where it's like, I don't have time, but we should really switch it with the idea like, my friends are not my priority. My community is not my priority. My family is not my priority. That's what we should be saying when we don't have time, because there is always a trade-off. And to say like, hey, yes, I might sacrifice a little bit of traction with my work or my career and my vocation, but it's one of those things where, hey, I want to actually build a life where I have a lot of friends that I feel like I'm connected to my community, right? That is a totally different game. And it's one of those things that even now in my 30s now, I'm sort of realizing that I kind of screwed up, was that I focused so much on trying to make a lot of money and trying to invest and to save a lot of money and to build this life where I didn't have a balance. I didn't have the balance of time, health, and also your money. And the final piece, and it's a very important reminder, is time, right? And that's the whole idea behind this lifestyle optimization and trying to optimize your life, because your time is limited. And throughout each stage in your life, your time is going to fluctuate, right? In your 20s, you have a lot of time, so you should be doing certain things. In your 40s and 50s, you probably have a lot less time. And it's like, hey, I need to still maybe use some of my money so that I can buy back more time, so to speak, right? If I had more money in my 40s and 50s, I might actually hire someone to cook my food, have a meal prep service. Maybe I'll hire a maid because I want to actually gain back that time so that I can spend it with my children, so I can spend it with my spouse, because there's these second order effects that if I focus so much time on just making money and I neglect my family, I neglect my kids, I neglect my wife and my husband, then you're going to have these second order effects of maybe having a divorce, right? Which is going to decimate your financial standing, which is going to decimate your mental health, which is probably going to destroy your physical health, because you're feeling depressed, sad, and sort of withdrawing from the society. So there's all these after effects where you need to keep a delicate balance between making money and following career, which is something that people in the West and throughout the world is so focused on hustling and making money that they've neglected other areas of their life, and then it sort of comes back and bites them in the behind, and it sort of just destroys all the progress that you actually make. So it's smarter and more effective to actually let go of the gas pedal, so to speak, a little bit, and you try to maintain a balance with your family, with your friends, with actually living life. Because if you don't actually go out and enjoy life and you're just working all the time, you might actually burn out. You might get depressed. You might be lacking so many things. So try to think of time in a way that it's a tool, right? And in your 60s and 70s and beyond, you're gonna have a lot more time day to day, but at the same time, you realize that the Grim Reaper is sort of coming for you in a sense, right? And it's not only for people in their 60s to 70s, right? But even in your 20s and 30s, I say that you should be thinking about death more often and have these reminders that, hey, you're not going to live forever. And if you say you're going to sacrifice the current moment, all of it, so that you can live a really good life in your 50s and 60s and beyond, then I say you might not survive until that time, right? I've seen plenty of friends, whether that was in the military, whether that was in the childhood friends, that have passed away at my age when I was even younger, especially in the military. I saw young 25-year-old sergeants that were coming back in body bags from Iraq, Afghanistan on these missions, and their mothers and their fathers were there, standing there, and they had the luxury of time and their sons didn't. And that's something that I keep cognizant in my mind, is that, hey, time is limited, and time freedom and your ability to move towards a goal of having more time and to freeing yourself from the obligations of the world, of bills, of paying for things, of consumerism, of buying things just for the sake of buying things, so that you can unlock this time freedom, so that you can live a life that you truly want to live. Now in my 30s, I am sort of experiencing the magic of having the freedom of time, and it's just incredibly intoxicating. And that's what I want for you all, is to be able to live a life where you are free to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want, on your own terms. And that's really what life optimization is all about, right? The idea of how do I actually live a good life? And it's the balance of time, money, and energy. And keep that in mind. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any ideas of how to actually optimize one's life, please put them in the comments below, because I'm always curious what other people are thinking and different ways of lifestyles and living.